According to the New Testament's book of John, Jesus Christ turned water into wine at a wedding held in the village of Cana. Yet, over the centuries, several different sites in the Middle East have been mooted as the true location of Jesus' first miracle. But now new archaeological discoveries might hold the key to this mystery. In 3 of the 4 Gospels of the New Testament, Matthew, Luke, and Mark, Jesus actually declines to perform miracles to prove he's the Son of God. But the account of his life given in John is radically different. In that text, Jesus is recorded as carrying out no fewer than 7 miracles, including transforming water into wine. Scholars and archaeologists have of course spent lifetimes trying to trace the steps of Jesus, but the obstacles to proving that one particular location is somewhere that Jesus performed a miracle are formidable. The fact is that the Gospels, the records of Jesus' life, were written almost 2,000 years ago, so pinning down specific locations is an almost impossible task. For instance, Father Eugenio Iliata, both a priest and an eminent archaeologist at Jerusalem's Studium Biblicum Franciscanum Museum, combines religious faith with rigorous scientific method, and he takes a philosophical view of the relationship between tradition and science. He also believes that each has its contribution to make to scholarship. Speaking to National Geographic in 2017, he said, "It will be something rare, strange to have archaeological proof for a specific person 2,000 years ago. Tradition gives more life to archaeology, and archaeology gives more life to tradition. Sometimes they go together well, sometimes not, which is more interesting." So first, let's take a closer look at the miracle itself. As we've seen, the incident is only recorded in the Gospel according to John. No one knows who wrote John, but traditionally he's believed to have been the man referred to in John itself as a disciple whom Jesus loved. The story of the wedding at Cana comes in John 2. "And the 3rd day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there, and both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage." That gives us the location of the wedding, Cana in Galilee. Galilee is actually in the north of modern-day Israel. The passage from John 2 goes on to describe how Jesus' mother Mary tells him, "They have no wine." Her son's initial response seems rather dismissive. "Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come." But it seems that Mary has faith in her son's abilities. Mary then informs the servants at the wedding that they should do as Jesus tells them. There are 6 water pots of stone in the room, so Jesus instructs the servants to fill the water pots with water. Then he requests that they serve some of the liquid in the jars to the governor of the feast. The governor tastes the liquid from the jars and pronounces it to be good wine. And the story ends with, "This beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him." We have a name for the place where this miracle is said to have happened then. The trouble is that we don't know the location of the place itself 2,000 years later. Nonetheless, contemporary thinking is that there is a real-world location for this event. The reason is that it's deemed unlikely that a location with no basis in fact would have been named in John at all. Over the years then, there have been several ideas as to where the wedding at Cana took place. Probably the best known of these is an Arabic town in Galilee called Kafr Cana, which many have believed is the location. This belief has been traced back as far as the 8th century. Archaeologist Yardena Alexander even announced back in 2004 that he'd found evidence that indicated Kafr Cana was the biblical Cana. Alexander had actually discovered fragments from stone jars seemingly of the type that held the water Jesus turned into wine. Alexander seemed very sure of herself back in 2004. All indications from the archaeological excavations suggest that the site of the wedding was modern-day Cana, the site that we've been investigating, she told NBC News. The location of contemporary Cana, or Kafr Cana, lies between the modern city of Nazareth and the ancient fishing village of Capernaum on the Sea of Galilee. But others weren't so convinced. Archaeologist Shimon Gibson, for example, told CBS News, "Just the existence of stone vessels is not enough to prove that this is a biblical site." He pointed out that the discoveries of fragments from such jars are far from rare. There was also a rival to the site where Alexander was working. This lay a few miles to the north at a place called Kibet Cana. It's the location of a Jewish settlement from 323 BC to 324 AD, And a new evidence unveiled in August 2018 appears to support the idea that Cana is indeed the true location of the biblical Cana wedding. Speaking to the Daily Mail, Dr. Tom McCullough, the leader of the archaeological excavation at Cana, acknowledged that there were several sites that others argued were the location of the Cana wedding, but none has the ensemble of evidence that makes such a persuasive case for Cana, he added. In the dig at Cana, McCullough's team uncovered a stone altar equipped with a shelf. The remains of a stone jar were on the shelf, and it had space for 6 more jars. Jesus, as we saw earlier, is said to have turned the water in 6 water pots of stone into wine. The dig at Cana also revealed an underground labyrinth of tunnels. These were used by early Christians who came to venerate the water-to-wine miracle, according to McCullough. This complex was used beginning in the late 5th or early 6th century and continued to be used by pilgrims into the 12th century Crusader period, he added. And Dr. McCullough was confident of the significance of his team's findings. Our excavations have shown that this was, in fact, a thriving Jewish village located in the heart of much of Jesus' life and ministry, he stated. But can we be certain that Jesus really turned water into wine at Cana 2,000 years ago? Ultimately, that has to be a question of faith.